international model United Nations, but for model United Nations in Kazakhstan more broadly. Michael Snowden is the Consul General of the United States of America here in Almaty. And as you probably know, the United States Department of State is the main sponsor of this event. So we're very grateful to Mr. Snowden, and we're very grateful to the Department of State for their support, and their sponsorship, and their general assistance for Model UN. So let's give a big welcome to Michael Snowden.
Well, thank you very much. Well, honorable delegates, esteemed partners in this Model UN, thank you very much for the honor to address you in this closing ceremony. As Aaron mentioned, I'm the United States Consul General here in Almaty. What he didn't mention is for the 4 years just before I came here in Almaty, I was a United States delegate to the United Nations General Assembly and to the Economic and Social Council in New York. So I have firsthand experience, long experience actually, negotiating UN resolutions exactly of the type that you've been doing these past few days. And I very much hope that you found it as fun and exciting and educational as I certainly found it when I was in New York. I mean, the kind of experience you get with communications and negotiations and getting a feel for, you know, international relations and foreign policy, the work of diplomacy that comes with working in a Model UN. You really can't get that experience in a classroom or almost any other place. So I think you had a very unique opportunity here, and I hope you found it very rewarding. I also hope that you formed some friendships among the people that you've been negotiating with. I can assure you, some of my toughest adversaries among foreign diplomats in the United Nations were very good friends of mine outside of the negotiating room. You know, it's that common experience you have fighting in the trenches on a negotiation that brings you together even if your countries were not always in agreement. So I hope you found that too, and that the friendships you found during this experience will last well beyond this weekend. I'm particularly honored, as Aaron mentioned, that the United States Department of State was able to sponsor this Model UN. In fact, it was through the assistance of the U.S. diplomatic mission here in Kazakhstan, as well as our embassies in Tashkent, Bishkek, Dushanbe, and Delhi that also were invaluable assistance to us in helping us find the resources to put this together. I also, of course, cannot ignore deep appreciation for the other supporters and sponsors of this organization. Obviously, KIMEP, I thank Dr. Bang for hosting this wonderful Model UN here at KIMEP, and Aaron and his colleagues who put so much work together for it. Also the Department of Public Information of the United Nations here in Almaty, Dr. Mosamek and his team, who I'm sure were an invaluable resource of information and organizational questions. You know, during this Model UN, you tackled some very important international issues: Afghanistan and the New Silk Road, women's economic empowerment, migrants, and other issues. Indeed, for the United States and the broader international community, one of the highest priorities right now is improving the regional economic cooperation between and among the states of South and Central Asia, and particularly between them and Afghanistan. This is to unlock the potential for the greater private sector-led growth including the opportunities for women and migrants that exist and simply need to be tapped. Each new gathering of relevant states at international meetings, at UN-sponsored events, in small ways and in large ways, help lead to the momentum that, brings the understandings and common beliefs and cooperation closer together. And that builds on the excellent progress that has been made so far in Afghanistan already in establishing security. South and Central Asia has enormous natural resources. They've reached numerous new trade agreements. They have a growing network of road, rail, electricity grids, you name it, all of which is unleashing the greater promise of a more integrated South and Central Asia. But achieving this economic cooperation, which is the essence of the new Silk Road vision, will not be easy, and it will not happen overnight, and it won't be solved in a 3-day negotiation session. It requires, of course, very strong coordination among the governments in this region, by their international partners, particularly in the United Nations system, and it takes the involvement of the private sector. But it also requires people-to-people exchanges, and this model United Nations is a wonderful example of just that. Without exception, every country in this region has a vital interest in an increasingly prosperous and stable Afghanistan, as well as developing the markets and opportunities that will accompany that economic stability for all the states. And each of you are playing a role in that effort. Now, investor-friendly policies, trade agreements, cooperation, making it easier for people to do business across borders, transparent governance, all these things will spur an efficient regional economic growth and unlock this vast potential in the markets of this region. But ultimately, it's people like yourselves. It's students, it's artists, it's tourists, it's business people, it's volunteers, any number of other people that bring these policies by governments into reality. Now, looking ahead, you're still rather young, and you've got a lot more of your lives ahead of you probably than I do. The geopolitical realities of this 21st century is that cooperation and collaboration among states and economies is more critical than ever. That's especially true here in South and Central Asia, where the trade within the region among the states is only about 15% of their total trade. So it's a small level, and it can grow tremendously. But we think that the prospects for this greater regional economic cooperation have never been better. And it's critical to maintain this momentum as Afghanistan is increasingly taking responsibility for their own security. And the rest of us have to ensure that this transition is a successful one. Now, I am personally very thrilled at the interest and involvement each of you have shown by participating in this Silk Road Model United Nations. Obviously, foreign relations and diplomacy is an area of interest that I enthusiastically share with you. I should mention, by the way, that I was 13 years old when I decided that I wanted to become a diplomat, and I was just 22 years old when I became a diplomat. So you're very well along that path where you could very soon, be diplomats yourselves. Now, some of you may have dreams of becoming a diplomat with the foreign ministry of your country, and some of you perhaps have dreams or ambitions that go in other directions. But whatever you choose to pursue in your academic and in your professional lives, I strongly encourage you to retain this interest in global affairs. The world has never been smaller than it is today. And most of the great issues facing the nations today, let's talk about food security, climate change, energy, water, disease, narcotics trafficking, terrorism, human trafficking. These are issues that no single state, no single government can possibly solve by themselves. It requires cooperation. And these problems to find a solution require the collective efforts of each one of us. You can't just expect your national government by themselves to resolve it. There's that famous saying, you should think globally and act locally. And I very much urge you to take that to heart. So please look for ways to embody and implement some of the principles that you've been negotiating these past few days in your resolutions. And try to inspire your family and your friends and your neighbors to do the same. And that way, each one of you really does become a diplomat. And you can be a force for positive change during the lifetime of your generation. Now, I applaud very much your efforts this week. I saw the very gathering of your General Assembly session, something I've celebrated myself several times. I understand that you adopted several of your documents by consensus, which is certainly the way most of my resolutions went. And I know it's a tremendous achievement that takes a lot of hard work by everybody involved. I'm very honored again that the U.S. Department of State and our embassies here in this region were able to sponsor this program in close cooperation with our wonderful partners. I just want to leave you with a wonderful, deep-felt congratulations for a job well done. But I hope, again, this is not the end of this experience, that you will take this forward in the rest of your lives. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you again, Mr. Snowden. We know that diplomats have very busy schedules, and I know that the Consul General has other important meetings even today on Saturday, but we thank him again for his time, and we thank him again for his recognition of our model United Nations. So let's give him another round of applause. We had 3 committees working on very, very important and crucial issues, and we'd like to introduce these committees and single out a few delegates who were even more exceptional in their performance. Let's start with the General Assembly. I'd like to give the floor to the Chair of the General Assembly, Alexander.